Examining their case files for anything on Weinstein.
Here to discuss that and more is attorney Anahita Sedaghatfar. Welcome so much for being here.
Thank you.
Nice
for
to have
having
you.
Me. Thank you.
We all heard that audio tape that came out of Manhattan. Could it be that the Manhattan DA had a case?
I absolutely think there was a case there, and me, like everyone else, is stunned that criminal charges were not filed in that case. I mean, you have him, Harvey Weinstein, admitting on tape that he sexually assaulted this woman. I mean, that's the best evidence you could possibly have. And I think what's kind of rubbing people the wrong way is that there are allegations that the DA did not press charges in that case because there was some donation made by Weinstein's attorney to this DA's campaign.
Which, of course, they deny.
Of course they deny that.
Let's take that case out of it. Based on what we know so far, do you see any other criminal liability for him?
I think it's highly possible. We know that the authorities in New York and London have opened up a criminal investigation. They want to talk to women. They're asking everyone to come forward if you've been assaulted. They want to interview them. Now, the issue of actual criminal charges is a separate issue. And first and foremost, there has to be sufficient evidence, right? So there has to be enough evidence of a crime for the DA to prove his or her case beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's the first hurdle. And then we've talked a lot about the statute of limitations issue. So as long as the statute hasn't run, and we know it varies in every state. So
many people think there is a sliding scale of justice in this country. Somebody who's wealthy and well-known is treated differently than somebody who's poor and cannot afford good counsel. In this case, how much does his celebrity factor in?
Well, I think it's worked against him in this case because the whole world is talking about this scandal right now. And when you talk about, abusing power, we see this not only in Hollywood. I mean, the casting couch is sort of a known thing, but I represent victims of sexual harassment and sexual assault every single day. And this happens in corporate America all the time. So, I mean, I definitely think he has the money to hire the best defense attorneys. He's done so already, even though there's no criminal charges, and that benefits him in that respect. But he's been essentially convicted in the court of public opinion, so his celebrity has kind of worked against him in that way.
What are you and your lawyer friends talking about when you discuss this case?
Well, we're talking about mainly the possibility of criminal charges and how he got away with this for so long. It seems that so many people knew about it. And you talk about the Weinstein company, the company that he was a board member of, that he actually started, and they fired him. But that doesn't absolve them from liability. They're not completely off the hook. And so if there's evidence that they knew about his conduct, they knew that he was engaging in sexual harassment and sexual assault, if that can be proven, then they're liable civilly for punitive damages, possibly in the millions of dollars.
There have even been allegations that some of the assistants went and fetched the women.
That's
and
right.
so they felt more comfortable because a woman was present. So we don't really know how many people this might ensnare during this investigation.
That's right. Let's not forget the actual employees that worked for the Weinstein company. There are women that have come out and said that Mr. Weinstein used us to actually bring him women to the hotel rooms, to bring in women to the office buildings. And then you have other employees that say they themselves were subjected to sexual harassment in the workplace. Again, all of that is actionable.
There's a very interesting and hard to believe report. We were talking about this before the news began, that TMZ is saying that his contract basically called for him to be allowed to sexually harass women. In other words, it couldn't be fired as long as he paid the settlements.
That's so unbelievable.
I mean, is that possible?
That is, let me tell you, I've reviewed hundreds of employment contracts in my career. I have never heard of such a clause. And I can tell you, if that clause exists, there is no court in this country that would enforce such a clause. So if Harvey Weinstein wants to sue the company for terminating him based on these sexual harassment allegations, a judge is going to toss that case out because you cannot enforce a clause against public policy. And that clause is certainly against public policy. You can't agree to waive punishing somebody for violating state law and possibly criminal laws.
If it's true, it seems to imply that the company thought perhaps he would need that break.
You are so on point, and that certainly goes to sort of contradict the company's position that they've espoused, which is we didn't know about Weinstein's conduct. We're surprised. We're shocked.
All right, last question. If you were representing him, what would your advice or strategy be right now?
That's a tough one. I think the first step is accepting responsibility. He seems to kind of have done that, and get help. Clearly, he has some issues. I don't know if it's a sex addiction, a substance addiction issue, but get help, seek treatment, accept responsibility, and try to do better.
All right. Thank you very much, Anita. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Anahita Sedaghatfar.
Nice.